Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. I'm your host, Coach Paul Tripoli. Thanks for watching the show and tuning in. We have a special guest, one of my all-time favorites, and not just me, but a lot of my teammates' all-time favorite strength and conditioning coach, Al Miller. Coach, thanks for joining the show today.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Gosh, I don't know, over a quarter of a century, NFL head strength coach with the Broncos, the Giants, the Falcons, and as you can see over my shoulder, stretching the Raiders. Coach, let's start from the beginning. You got an amazing story, but you were born in El Dorado, Arkansas. But when did you move to Louisiana?
Well, I tell you what, Paul, it's sad to tell you, but first time I ever went to Louisiana, I think I played a junior varsity game in high school there one time, but in the 10th grade, but when I went to college.
Oh, wow. So you are from Arkansas. Maybe that's why Coach Bryant liked you a little bit.
Well, he was raised right up the road, and he dated a lady there when he was in his hometown, and would come down and catch a train. Excuse me a second. Catch a train to visit her and be able to and go from there. But he and I had a pretty good little relationship. You know, Lewis Campbell's from there too.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Coach Campbell is from Arkansas.
Still lives.
Well, let's go back and talk about your mom and dad and any siblings growing up. And I know you're a multi-sport athlete. We'll talk about that in a minute. But talk about your mom and dad and your brother, sister.
My father didn't know very well. He died when I was very young. I think I was in the 7th or 8th grade. And
wow.
He died of a heart attack. He came back from World War II, and he'd got shot up a little bit. And well, you don't get shot up a little bit. You get either shot or up, or you don't. And so he had a pretty tough life. And he grew up in North Arkansas, right up close to Fayetteville, and he was on his own at 12 years old. So he had a pretty tough life. Mom grew up in North Mississippi in a little bitty town named Oakland, and it's still a little bitty. Tells you how many people were there. And they met. And so they were great parents. Dad gave me the discipline, direction that I needed, even though it was for a short while. And my mother she was spot on. She was really something special. And she lived on into her 80s and was a wonderful woman, and got to be able to see her baby boy to go on and play some football. And I had a sister, still do. She's living in little town, and it's out from Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's a community out there. She's doing well. Speak to her quite a bit. So they did well by me. I wish I could have done better for them.
Coach, you're so humble. You're one of the toughest people I've ever met in my life, but you're so humble. You played multiple sports in high school: football, basketball, baseball, track. You actually set a high school record in the pole vault at 13 feet. I had no idea when I was playing in Alabama, Coach, that you were the athlete that you were. And then you went to Northeast Louisiana to play football, set 9 school records as an end. They don't call you split end or tight end back then. It's just an end.
No, not back then. Well, we got really, really updated, and then they made another young man that was really a good football player named Floyd Giblin. He was from Baton Rouge, and they kept him at tight end and moved me out. And then the name split end came about in our repertoire of things, how we did things. But we had a good football team. We really did, and had great football players. Sure did.
Gosh, you set a pole vault record of 13 feet. Did you like track and field?
Loved
track and field.
Loved it. And it was a time that, and I started, in the backyard, mother's actual flower bed, and it was my old basketball goal. Everybody back in those times made their own goal, put the tree up out there, and then nailed in some 2x4s, and there had a goal and didn't have a net. But then that went into high jumping when we found out about that. Then, and this is going to age me some, but when we got television, started watching that, then we started watching, sometimes you would get track meets, and we had a great athletic program there where I grew up, great coaches, great, people in the city that really followed it, pushed it. And, so I just saw it and then started trying to do it and would cut some trees down and started jumping. And then all of a sudden then went out for it. And then they had the fiberglass pole. But one thing that really got me going with that, Paul, was when I was in the 10th grade, sophomore in high school. John Pennell, the world record holder at that time, set the world's record, was the first man that ever went over 16 feet. 16 or 17, I can't remember. I think he was 16, and he went 16 something. And it was in Monroe at my university where I went to school. He was there.
Wow.
And it's about 100 miles from where I live. And so that got a lot of local press as well as national. And then I started following it. And of course, I started trying to emulate, like all young kids do. And so there you go. That's how I do it.
Well, you're a great player in Northeast Louisiana, and then you went in the Army, U.S. Army.
Yeah. When I finished Vietnam time, when I was in school, and everybody, you'd sit around just like you guys did. Y'all would sit around and talk about one of the many things that was going on in the world at that time, and we did too. And it was one of the things that we did. It was a land grant school, so everybody had to go for 2 years of ROTC in the Army here, and that would be your freshman, sophomore year. So I was redshirted, thank goodness, best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And I went to school when I was 17, and so I got that extra year that I needed to mature more ways than one. And I think that the year that I had to make the decision if you were going to go into what they call advanced ROTC, or if you were going to, just drop out and take your chances with the draft. Well, I've never been lucky in anything like that, poker or throwing dice or anything else like that. So I opted out, to go in. As I said, if I'm going to go, I'm going to get paid a little bit more money and try to tell somebody what to do rather than to be. So went in. I ended up when the end of second lieutenant, got out of captain.
Wow. All right, your first full-time job coaching, Coach. Number one, thank you for your service. My dad was in World War II. I know it was Father's Day and everything, but yeah, my dad was an amazing guy. Started our youth community basketball program, coached all my baseball, football when I was a youth. I just want to shout out there to dads kind of missing Father's Day last week. My dad was a special guy, and thank you for your service and his service and everybody out there that serves. All right, your first full-time job as a strength and conditioning coach at Mississippi State.
Well, my first full-time job was at Lee Junior High School here in Monroe.
Yes, that's your first job.
That was it, making $6,000 a year. I thought I was killing them. I said, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this money. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So you wanted to move up. You wanted to improve and get better.
Paul, I tell you what, I was not like a lot of this, that goes on today in time, and and good, bad, or indifferent, it's going on. There's a lot of people get into it because there's a lot of money involved nowadays in coaching and playing, and it wasn't that way
Right.
when I was you obviously at $6,000 a year, then you're not going to you're not going to Wall Street, and get any ideas. But the thing is that never was just hungry to move up. I was hoping that maybe at the end of my career as a coach that I could have a high school head job somewhere here in the state, and try to build a powerhouse. And I tell you what, the good Lord has taken a lot of turns in my life and made it for the better for me. And even when there were down times, like my dad dying, then people came into my life, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same way. There was a man named Dwight Adams that came into my life and changed my life forever. And I was going astray, going down the wrong street. Mother couldn't handle me. Friends, there and this, that.
Right.
He did it. And a man named Ralph Miller, both of them at the same time. And he taught me how to lift weights and showed me some things about when I was in the 8th grade. And when I did, it was like a bomb went off in my mind. He measured my arm, and we were doing some curls and stuff, Paul. And that little old thing was about 10 inches long, round. And then he said that, I did 3 sets on things, my arm swole up. And boy, I said, good Lord. And I said, in a month, I'll be a monster, Well, that started me.
Yeah.
That started me. And I was hooked. And I was hooked by the man that took over the, I guess you would call it the off season, and Dwight Adams. And they taught me that, and I raised that, and the good Lord provided the way. So then it was just Paul, it was just no other way to tell you. I don't know. It was a ride from there on out. It was just one thing after the other. I sit back now and look at it, and I think, wonder what was I thinking and doing? I didn't know. But I had a good wife at that time.
Yeah.
And you remember her. And
yes, sir.
She and I, she was the brains of the group, and we would talk everything out, and that was one of the positive things that we would do. And it just ended up how it ended up, and it's all a story. But I mean, good gracious, it'd take us the rest of the day to talk about it.
Coach, people don't get where they are without the help of other people and mentors.
I'm living and breathing that. Yeah.
Well, everybody does. I talked to Tommy Wilcox last week, and he told me the story about people that mentored him. He mentored me, and if it wasn't for you, I don't know where I would be. I sure wouldn't be sitting here today. You have to lean on other people, and other people to support you, and that's how they build you up. Coach Bryant used to say, the only reason he was a good coach is he was standing on the shoulders of giants, because he hired great assistant coaches.
Well, that's true. Now I know the ones that he were on that staff, yes, sir, and ones that he had down through the years. Yeah, we're good.
They're outstanding. Are you kidding me? Sylvester Kroom, from Lewis Campbell, who was really, we didn't see eye to eye, but he taught me almost everything there was to be as DB. I even taught it to my players when I got older. And then, oh my gosh, I just could go on and on about all the Bruce Arians and Mike Dubose. Just you could go on and on about the people he surrounded himself with. When you left Northeast Louisiana, your alma mater, Coach Bryant hired you. Tell me about that meeting.
when I got into that coaching that at the collegiate level, and that was back in my alma mater. My wife was back home, and I was 100 miles from home. So I mean, you feel pretty comfortable there. And well, we had a good football team, good coaches, real good coaches. Pat Collins was the head coach and was a real fine coach. And so we had things going, had players, and we did well. And a few years after I left, they won the national championship.
Oh wow!
A group of guys would always get to kidding. It'd be just like me calling Paul Tripoli, and I'd say, Paul, this is so and so and so and so at the University of Texas or something. I need a defensive back coach. I need you out, and we just kid with each other like that. Well, we'd get some secretaries involved. Well, one day I got a call, and I'm sitting there, and they said. And Miss Knowles, Linda Knowles.
Linda Knowles, yes.
It was Coach's secretary. She was God's own angel, boy. What a wonderful human being that is. And she said, Coach, this is, Coach Paul Bear Bryant is calling you to visit about a job right there. So I said, oh, yeah, sure. I saw something silly like, how's Coach doing today? Because I knew it was somebody's. And she said, just hold on a minute. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, laughing. I said, I know which one of these knothead friends I got, that are going to be on the phone today. Boy, let me tell you something, Paul. He came on that phone. I sat there, a big old grin on my face. He said, boy, I sat up in that chair. I don't even know, man. And I said, I jumped up like a clown right there.
Oh, my gosh, that's hilarious.
So I tell you what, from that on in there, the conversation didn't last more than 30 seconds. He said, we're interested in you. He said, if you're interested in us, come on over here, And so I did. And when I got into the room there to meet with him, I brought my wife, and so she was had a big part in it too. And so I thought it would be 5 minutes. I say, wait right here. I said, this will be over in 5 minutes. Well, they took her and went around and showed her the whole smear and everything. We stayed in there an hour, and we started talking about things. He found out things, and I found out a lot about him, is that he was interested in the people that he hired. He didn't ever ask, how many, if you're going to increase the speed or anything. He said, I don't know nothing about that. He says, well, I'd be hiring you. He said, well, I want to ask you some questions. And boy, he did. And we had a lot of commonality in the fact that he was raised 40 miles from me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of men that were important to him in his life, I knew, or he knew them because he had recruited El Dorado. And El Dorado had a lot of great athletes when he was in actually Texas A&M at those times, and tried to recruit a lot of those kids that came out of El Dorado and went on to Arkansas. So he had an understanding and knowledge of everything, and certainly of where he grew up. So that was how it all came about. And we left it, I was going to have to go back and talk to my wife about it, because we had a pretty much, set in stone job here. So I rely on the man upstairs for the help. And I didn't have a daddy to go to, so I went to my father-in-law, who was a wonderful man. And he gave me some really good advice. The only time I ever used him, but boy, it was good. And he was a pilot in World War II, so he knew, And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so anyway, that was it, and I took the job, and one of the best moves I ever made.
The first meeting, when you said you stood up on the phone, you know, that's one of the things that shocked me. Besides the weather and the culture and the language, from going upstate New York to Alabama, my first meeting in 1980, he walked around the door, and every single player stood up, sat up just like that. And me, I was just I was just laying back, slouching. I was like, "What the heck is going on?"
Yeah,
well, it got my attention right quick.
Paul, let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question. In all your life, have you ever been around an individual that had the aura that he had?
No, never, not even close.
Yeah.
He was as comfortable or as confident in front of a janitor or the president of the United States.
True.
He actually told Lyndon Johnson, first time he met him, Lyndon Johnson came up to him and said, "Boy, you're big." And Coach Bryant said, "You're a big son of a bitch yourself." No, who would do that? Except Coach Bryant. Who would do that?
I'll tell you what, that sounds just about like him.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
All
but
right.
I remember this too. Pat and I used to tell, I got to know Pat a little bit. We hunted when I was in Atlanta. I had some coaches that were on staff with Pat, and Dara had places down there in Auburn, and we would go down and hunt quail with Pat. And Pat was a lot like Coach Bryant, sure was. And that toughness, and I can see. I look back now, and I could see, what he was trying to be able. Boy, and I tell you, the people that he hired there were certainly first class, and coaches, and I had a lot of good friends on that. Some of them which are not with us anymore, right. But boy, I tell you what, that was a great experience.
Well, Coach, you're an amazing person. Al Vermeil called you the John Wayne of strength and conditioning, and I guess that's appropriate. Coach Bryant was friends of the Duke, so I guess that fit in pretty good. Mike White, my co-captain in the 1984 Iron Bowl, former Navy SEAL, told me a great story. When he was in SEAL training, he put a picture of you, Coach, up in his locker because he didn't want to come back and tell you that he quit. Come on, that's a beautiful story from Mike White about you and the motivation that you put forth. I mean, discipline was at its forefront. I talked to another Alabama player, a good friend of both of ours, Billy Pierce. One summer with you. Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about Billy Pierce right quick. Billy's dad died, okay? And Billy was from, about 30 miles from where I was from. And long story short, but anyway, I'll skip all of that. So I knew that, and I called Lewis Campbell, your old coach, and Lewis was, and I was asking about Billy when I went to Denver for the first time, and on Coach Dan Reeves' staff. And so I heard Billy, was kind of going astray a little bit or something there in school and not doing his work or something. And, so I went out and reached out to him and brought him to, Denver. And that year was our second year there. And we had a great year, a good football team. We went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, Billy, I forgot how it was. Coach Reeves fell in love with him and loved him to death. And Billy came and worked the whole off season for us. We got to know Coach Reeves real well. He spent, I think, that would have been the spring semester there with us, in Denver. And he spent we started our training camp, and then he goes back home, and I think he had a little school left. Well, we go to the Super Bowl that year. And when he does, he said, "Do you think I could come out there?" I said, if you can get here. I said, sure. I said, well, I'll take care of it. You got a room. And I told Coach Reeves, and he said, "You tell him to come." So I think Billy caught a flight out to L.A. where we had it in the Rose Bowl, and so he gets on the sideline, and referees come in and said, "You got to be dressed this way," something like that. Well, Billy didn't have anything other than what he had on, and so Dan said, "Well, look, you just wear my coaching attire," because they were about the same size. And they said, "I wear these suits anyway because I think he got paid for them." So, of course, Billy gets his stuff. He's on. I said, "Look here." I said, "Look, Billy Pierce has not even been here." I said, 1 year, and I said, he's already wearing the coat. So that tells you about Billy.
On the Super Bowl sideline.
Yeah,
oh my gosh,
kids loved him. He got along great.
Oh, what an athlete he was, man! Well, yeah, him and I used to go at it in everything: basketball, tennis. Yeah. We would play every sport. Yeah. When he was out there in Denver, the rookies from all over the country, whether it be UCLA or Texas or wherever, said they never trained like they did with you. they did all those colleges were not doing the same thing that you were doing, Coach. Yeah. And I guess maybe
I don't know if that's good or bad, Paul.
Oh my gosh, Coach, it was good because they were complaining, which means it's good.
Got a lot of that.
Oh, let's get into that a little bit, Coach. Let's talk about the system explained in a book you helped author after you retired from in the Soviet periodization adapted for American strength coach. And your co-authors, of course, your other two buddies that are on the Mount Rushmore of American strength coaches, Johnny Parker and Rob Panariello. I hope I said that right. Sounds like a good Italian guy.
Yeah, Rob is with the actual. He's working now for the in Charlotte with the Panthers up there in football, and Rob grew up in New York and went into strength coaching. And remember Lou Carnesecchi, the old basketball coach who was up here, won everything. And and then he was they were in the Final Four, top Elite Eight and all that stuff. And then I think he went to Seattle. He tried to take Rob with him, but Rob stayed and didn't get along with the other guy or whatever the case may be, but went in, got his physical therapy, and he's as good a physical therapist as there is breathing today. And he made an outstanding living at that. And but Rob was involved, and Rob knew a lot about that. And then we all picked Al Vermeil picked him like a chicken. And, it was just getting all the information from him. He's the best, I think, that's ever been, Paul. And
oh my gosh,
I've said that more than once. He has an understanding, the know-how. He does it himself. He relates. He was a player. I mean, he has so many positive things, and he's got a personality, and then he's got that toughness, and he's like his brother, who just inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame.
Right.
And a good family of people, just good people, and boy, I tell you what, but Al's a close friend of mine.
Well, talk a little bit about the system. It's the Soviet periodization. Back then, the Russians, and a Russian defector, Grigory Goldstein, that you guys tracked down in New York City, and you kind of got some secrets, and you kept them, kind of close to you guys' vest for a little while until you started sharing it. And now, are you thinking about writing a book talk about Goldstein and that whole, how that transpired?
Well, quick story. Johnny Parker and I were very close friends, and we're very close friends. Story too. You say you like stories. Well, here's one for you. Then I'm at Northwestern. My first college coaching job, I was coaching linebackers. Strength coach. Didn't get paid for it, but I was strength coach, and recruited Texas over there. So I got to know a lot. That's where I met Coach Reeves and all the coaching staff there, and also Bob Ward, who was the strength coach. And anyway, so Johnny comes out and visits. He said, I want to come visit you. And I said, well, Johnny, we just finished with spring ball. He said, no. I said, you lift weights? He said, I want to come out and watch your weight work. I said, yeah, come on. So he was at Indianola Academy in Mississippi. Okay. I think that's where he was.
Uh-huh.
He comes out, stays about 3 or 4 days with my wife and I. And, so he watches what we do and everything. And he said, I'm going down to see Alvin Roy, who was that time with the Saints. And I'd already been down. I would go see Alvin just about every year that I was there, that I could get down there, because we had a coach and my wife was from there, lived there. So she loved the food and everything. Johnny Parker sat right there in the parking lot of there, and he was in high school. I was just in college, and he finished up, and I'll never forget. He looked at me, Paul, and head back, and he said, "Coach," that old Mississippi accent. He said, "Coach," he said, "I tell you what," he said, "you're going to win 2 more games next year because you do squats and cleans." I said, well, Johnny, we ain't real good, but the first 2 that we win, I dang sure will accept all the praise for it. But 10 years from that day, from that time, Johnny Parker and I were shaking hands in the Rose Bowl in Los Angeles, California for Super Bowl 23. And I said, Johnny, we're a long way from Natchitoches, Louisiana right now. And he said, ain't that the truth? So there's you. All the kids out there that think there's no way that they're ever going to climb a line, and the limb and get up. God works in mysterious ways, Paul.
Oh, my gosh, Coach. All right, I mentioned these, just a short explanation about some of these players that you intimately, especially John Elway, and the story how you got him on board in Denver, your first year and his first year. I love that story. Tell that real quick, Coach.
Real quick, I'm sitting there. I'd been on job there probably about 2-3 weeks. 2 weeks probably, and still learning where the coffee urn was, and been there. And then all of a sudden, I got a little bitty office, and looking out in the weight room, and he walks around the corner, comes back in. I said, hey, how you doing? I said, I've been wanting to meet you. He said, I've been busy doing this, that, and the other. So we sat down and introduced ourselves, and we got to talking and this, that, and the other. And I told him, I said, John, I said, they tell me that you don't lift weights. And I said, don't train. He said, that's right. I don't need to. And I thought, well, I'd have something to come back and say, but there's the guy's the first player chosen, not only in football, but baseball too. And I thought, well, you know what? It's like when you're the kid, and everybody's real good, how am I going to tell him he's not any good? He is. And so I started going into it. I said, well, John, it can help you do this. It can help you do that. And it can help you. And every time I would get him, he would have a reply. He said, well, they tell me this, tell me that. And I said, and finally, I was getting about to the end of my string right there. I said, well, finally I just kind of leaned back, put my hand up, and I said, well, I can tell you one dadgum thing. Then I might not have used that vernacular, but I said, it'll keep you healthy. You can win football games and make a lot of money. And I said, and I can stay employed. And I said, and he looked at me, and boy, just kind of glazed over, stuck that hand out. He said, I've been waiting for somebody to tell me that. I'll never forget that, the conversation like it happened yesterday. I can't remember who I am about half.
You had to find his hot button.
I did that, and I'll tell you what now. You talk about somebody that, well, he's a great athlete. And whenever we started him slow, inch and long. But boy, Mike Shanahan was a quarterback coach. Mike was not near the stature of John or anything. Not many were, but he would work out with John all the time, trying to push him and everything, and they became good friends. And so Mike would work out with him. So after about 3 months, they worked out and at the same time, and everything. So Mike walks in one time, usually at the same hour that John did that we were training, that had set up, and Mike had his clothes on. And John looked at him, and I looked at him and said, "Boy, you better get your duds on." I said, "John been wanting to work out." And he said, "I ain't working out anymore." There's the coach, he said. And John said, "Well, what's wrong?" I started giving him a lot of grief. He said, "You just ain't any fun to work out with anymore." And that's what happened to him. He just got so dang strong. And he was
working out with his offensive lineman, which is unusual.
Yes,
that doesn't even happen today, but that's how tough he was in building that.
Well, it took him a while to get there. He didn't get there overnight, and
right,
we didn't expect for him to, but he had a long way. But yes, he did. And he was something now. He put on the show when he was in there. Sure did.
Wow.
50 years. Another one to do that too was Phil Simms and Michael Vick.
Oh, they were both hard workers.
Oh, boy, they look. Yes, sir.
Wow. I was going to ask you about them. I'm glad you did. Over 50 years of knowledge and wisdom. Maybe some of the strongest, smartest, or toughest athletes you've ever coached.
Well, one of the toughest is the kid that came from right here, right around here. Lord, man, you got to.
There's a lot of them, isn't there?
Wow.
Rocky Colburn was a
tough one. Yeah, you got to put him in there. There's no doubt about
Rocky
that. I mean, that kid, he had, to be that smart, he had no filter as far as his body was concerned. He had
no regard for his own body.
Oh man, his body. Do you remember the time that he finally got his final? He got hit. I think he only made a tackle on the kickoff, and they took him over to the doctors, and then they told him it was over. And I'll never forget. He just about went to crying. He said, "Please let me play." He said, "I won't hit anybody anymore with my head." And I thought to myself, now there is a man right there that loves this game of football. Yeah. And I said, it made everything fall into place with how hard he worked, how diligent he was. And I ended up hiring Rocky and worked with me there in Atlanta, I think 7-8 years,
Coach, you would run him and he would set the standard for everybody else at Alabama. In other words, if you could get close to what Rocky did, then you're doing something.
Yeah.
That's how tough he was.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's unbelievable, Coach. What kind of advice, last question, what kind of advice would you give a young college graduate that's in kinesiology, that loves sports, was an athlete maybe, and wants to be a strength coach? What advice would you give them?
Well, I think this, Paul, and I think this to any coach that's ever going out there, or anybody that's going to work, any young person, and that is a really good question that you ask, and I hope that I can do it justice. But and I look back, as we were talking about earlier, I look back at the people that I worked with and for, and every person, now this doesn't happen unless there's somebody, and it was the man upstairs that helped me. I can tell you that real quick. No doubt about it. The people that were in my life are the ones that set the bar for me. And I just would show up and do what I did. But those people set think about all of one guy that I had started off my coaching career, but all of the people before that led me up, even though I didn't have a daddy, you know. And people nowadays in time, they all say, well, that kid ain't got nobody, he'll end up. And I was going down that street. But you know what? They're take advantage of the one that comes into your life and go from there with the thing. There are people out there that will help you, but you got to understand who they are. Now, that to answer your question is, you say, who is this or that? But the people that you work for are more important by a long shot than where you work. You can coach at any of these big universities, but you might have a guy there that you don't get along with, that you don't see eye to eye with. You don't believe in the way that he's doing things. But every place you go and do, if that is the quality of person that is there, that is setting the example, then boy, you're in the right spot and you're doing the right thing. And I was fortunate for all those years to have a man named Dan Reeves for 19 years. And, of course, yes, I had Coach Bryant, but the years were short. I got to know Coach Reeves, and boy, there's not a finer human being.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, Coach. I know you guys were really close. God rest his soul. And you're absolutely right. Everybody has a similar story. I was going down a wrong path for quite a bit. Coach George O'Leary set me straight in high school. He got me ready for you and Coach Bryant, and I'm forever thankful for the people that have put me where I am. Coach, I love you.
Oh, Paul, I could sit here and talk all day to you, and I tell you, bring old Tommy in there, and we can make it a week out of it.
Oh, my gosh. Go hunting, go some quail hunting.
Hey, boy, Tommy, tell Tommy I said hello, and all those guys.
All those guys, I see him, Coach.
Yeah, wow, sure enough. But I appreciate you, Paul, and thank you for having me and listening to an old man kind of reconnect,
I'd have never made it anywhere without you, Coach. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. I'll be in touch.
Very good, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Al Miller. Wow, big influence in my life. Thanks for watching the show, everybody. Hope you had fun. We will talk to you soon. Have a great sports weekend. So long.
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you. At Hill Kelly Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola. Or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray, and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time. Arbitrium Consulting for all your fencing, landscaping, pressure washing, tree trimming needs. Call 850-483-0350 for your free estimates. Serving Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, Destin, Perdido, Gulf Shores, Foley, and the entire Gulf Coast. Arbitrium Consulting is owner-operated, fully licensed and insured. Call today, 850-483-0350, the official landscaper of Coach's Corner.
Hey, Bill, some game, huh?
I haven't really noticed, Paul.
What? The biggest game of the year?
I've been looking over my insurance. Talk about problems I'm trying to figure out.
Well, do what I did. Call the Seiler Agency. They showed me what I needed and what I didn't. They even saved me money. Now, instead of worrying about my insurance, I can worry about the big game.
Contact the Seiler Agency at 476-7443 for all of your insurance needs. Your independent agent for home, auto, boat, RV, commercial, general liability, life, and sound investment strategies. Call 476-7443 today.
So hard to get you in the perfect car. Looking for a better car buying experience? With a Step 1 Advantage from Buick GMC, Fort Walton Beach, and Pensacola, receive no-hassle market-based pricing or incentives by pre-ordering. Looking to sell or trade? Our dedicated team will even come to you. Plus, every vehicle sold at Step 1 supports local charities right in your neighborhood. Experience the Step 1 Advantage at Buick GMC, Fort Walton Beach, and Pensacola today.